What up? This is Natural, straight out of Beantown. You are now checking in with the B-Shine. I grew up in a pretty interesting town. I mean, Milton, right off the south end of Boston, is it's diverse on one end and not so diverse on the other. So it was kind of an interesting mix. I grew up on the west side, which is bordering Mattapan, which is the first kind of inner city part of Boston. Mattapan's a tough area. It's got some interesting things about it. And I think from just an early age, I was kind of drawn to the idea of trying to understand not just the culture of, the suburbs and kind of where I'm from, but also the city. I always loved the city, the good and the bad. I was drawn to learning more about it. And I had a lot of friends from the city, you know what I mean? It was just one of those things. It was right around the corner from me. So I got to kind of tiptoe the line from an early age. And then as I got a little older, it was pretty much the city only. I didn't really spend too much time in that town after a while. I played all early baseball, all my sports in the city. I got to know people through that. I played in the RBI League, which is a baseball league. My teens, that kind of took me around the entire city, both to the great places and to the really bad places. And it was kind of one of those experiences that just early on connected me with, hip-hop. I mean, I think hip-hop's everywhere. It's not just in the inner city. It's not just in the suburbs. It's all over the place. So I kind of initially fell in love with hip-hop just through the medium of music. I was really big into like the drums and percussion, and I think that basically was the start. So from early on, understanding just kind of different music that came out. I listened to a lot of different types of music, but hip-hop early on was definitely influenced by kind of my surroundings. The people around me were all into it. And I just fell in love with it because I thought it gave an interesting spin on things. It didn't just stay on one topic. It, looked at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I just fell in love with the whole idea of it. I thought it was a really cool way of expressing not only yourself, but kind of the environment around you. There's a really funny home video of me up on like a high chair, and I'm like standing there, and it's interesting because Run DMC's playing, and I'm rapping along to it. I don't remember. It was the Christmas song. It was the Christmas in Hollis, Queens. It was Christmas time. I was trying to shut all my siblings up. I'm the oldest of 5, so it's a big family, as you might imagine, not the quietest of households. I had a spoon in one hand and kind of my arm in the other, and I was just kind of rocking with the beat and screaming along to the lyrics. So I thought it was just such a dope idea to make a Christmas song, but make it a hip-hop song. I was pretty young. I was probably like 5 or 6 when that happened. So that's an early one. I also just remember like kind of older kids being like, yeah, man, you listen to this, you listen to that. I mean, I can remember like House of Pain. I was probably like 7 or 8 when that came out, or Jump Around came out, and then obviously Wu-Tang and stuff like that. 93. I remember being like, ooh, that seems cool, just off like the fact that the percussion, the beats was kind of what first got me into it. But once I started kind of really getting into the lyrics, I thought it was pretty dope too. But I would say, that probably when I was thinking I was Run DMC and I was from Hollis, Queens. Yeah, I started late, man. I was in my mid-20s when I started hip-hop as a performance art. I had always written it, which is weird. I had kind of always written bars to myself. I never really shared them with anybody. I was always in love. I really fell really in love with hip-hop, like, as I hit college. I started, kind of the internet boom and being able to kind of, like, go through what type of music you wanted to and further research it. Those early Lloyd Banks mixtapes, early G Unit mixtapes really like kind of got me super into it. As far as a writing perspective, Lloyd Banks, probably one of my biggest influences. Doesn't usually fit with my music because he raps about different things than I do. But as far as his delivery and structuring and things like that, I think he's an extremely talented artist. And I think that's right around when I first started writing, I would say about college, maybe a little before then. I had done some other types of writing, poetry, creative writing, and stuff like that. But I probably I started taking it more seriously right around then. And I don't know, man. I said from the jump, I don't want to do it as like a gimmick. I don't want to do it as like a hobby. I want to do it full out. So I just built it organically. I started making music, started giving it to people that I trusted, who would give me an honest opinion if it was whack. I got good feedback off the bat, and I think the last kind of thing that people were worried about was performance. And in my first performance I did it in a not a hip hop like environment. It was like an internationals night at Harper's Ferry, which is now the Brighton Music Hall. It was like slam packed with a bunch of different kids from all over the different types of the world, or different parts of the world, I should say. And from then on out, I think those were my proving grounds. I guess people were rocking. I got people that don't even care about hip hop to rock with me, and I think that was enough for people to be like, man, he's going to take this seriously. So I went from there. I just started, I started humble. I wanted to kind of pull myself up. And, a big thing is supporting. If you want to get yourself out there, supporting others around you, whether you know them or not. It's good to just get out to different hip-hop events, pay attention to artists that are doing the right things and making the right moves, and learn from them. You don't have to copy them verbatim, but getting out there, interacting with the community, figuring out who is paying attention around you and around your community, and, supporting not just other artists, not just their music, not just your own music, but also basically the culture itself. There's a lot of different type of hip hop rooted events, whether it be DJing, art exhibits, graffiti. There's a million different types of things that go on with it. So my biggest advice to up and comers is definitely getting out there and learning the ropes, but also interacting with as many people as you can. My parents are awesome people, man. They've been married 30 years. I don't know how the hell they did it. Like I said, they've raised 5 kids. I think they knew pretty early on. My parents were good about letting me know, to be creative and to try out new things. They never wanted me to be kind of cookie cutter, but at the same time, they didn't want to steer me in a particular direction, and the same with the rest of my siblings. So they were always pretty cool about letting me do a lot of different things. I remember going into, like I said, poetry classes, everything from poetry classes to chess clubs to like sports teams. Like my parents always were like, we'll get you into what you want to do. Just let us know what you're interested in. So I jumped around a lot. I did a lot of art, that sort of stuff. And as I started taking it more seriously, I think they were kind of like cool. I mean, my parents don't listen to hip hop much. I mean, they'll listen to my stuff here and there now, and things that'll come on the radio when we're in the car or whatever. But my parents don't really care about hip hop, but at the same time, they understand what it means to me and kind of respect the fact that I spent a great deal of effort on it, and I think that makes them happy. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a million things I could do that would be way worse than just creating music and trying to connect with people and showcase the good and the bad about where I'm from and kind of contribute where I can. So I think they respect it, and I think they enjoy it. I mean, they definitely. My grandmother came to some of my shows. You know what I mean? She's a Irish immigrant. You know what I mean? She doesn't give a shit about hip hop, but her grandson does it, so she wants to understand it. My first release show was really special to me. Dutch Rebel, who's another Boston artist, was one of the people on the bill. She didn't have to do that. She gave me a look just because I think I approached her the right way with it. I was very professional, and I think she realized kind of quickly how many people we knew, even though we didn't know each other per se. And I got to pay her. You know what I mean? Like, I made enough money off the release show and brought a lot of people in. Not just her, a few other artists. Jay the S, another awesome Boston artist that has always been a big brother to me. We're on that, and it was my first official party myself that I threw, that I coordinated and with my team, and to have them be a part of it, and then from there grow to be really great friends. I mean, Jay the S was already pretty much a good buddy at that point, but I didn't know Dutch. And we met through music, we connected through music, and she showed a lot of respect and professionalism to me right off the bat, and that was amazing to be able to rock that show as a newcomer. She was already having a pretty good buzz. That's one. 2, probably South by Southwest. I got up with Dutch again, but Static Selecta called us up at the Duck Down Showcase on a whim and just said, hey, you want to rep Boston during the Cypher? And I was like, yeah, man, that's my cape. Throw that on. That's amazing. So he gave us... me, Rex, her, Terminology, and a few other guys a chance to spit while we were up there in front of a packed house. I mean, again, he didn't have to do that. He did it because he believes in the culture, and he believes in dope hip hop, and he believes in people taking the time and effort and money to go somewhere like South by Southwest and being like, hey, you know what, man, come up here and rock with us. I thought that was super dope, and it was a big point of pride for me. Anytime I get to rep my city where I'm from, especially to people that aren't familiar or as familiar, that's a huge piece. So I would say those are probably my biggest ones. I think my biggest thing I've overcame is the fear of getting out of here to do it. I think a lot of people are hesitant to leave. I mean, you need to leave. I mean, if you want to succeed. And I think The biggest challenge, some will say money, some will say the time off of work or whatever you're doing. Like most of the people that do this stuff have other jobs, obviously, as they try to build. I'd say the biggest, thing I overcame was kind of that fear of like getting out of here and looking elsewhere to, grow as an artist and grow as a person. I mean, worst case scenario, things don't work out in hip hop when you travel to Texas. You still had an experience of traveling to Texas and meeting people and listening to different types of music and understanding the way cultures work in other cities, understanding how the industry works. Like Boston is not a huge industry-only city with hip-hop especially. I mean, it's there, but it's not as big as, say, New York and L.A., Texas during South by Southwest. So it's interesting to get out there. I would say my biggest challenge is, realizing you do got to spend your own money and you do got to get out there. And once you actually beat the fear, it's well worth your while. I'm a teacher, so I love connecting with children on different levels. I think music's a big way to do that. I did a song called "State of Grace" that was dedicated to Martin Richard, who passed away in the marathon bombings a couple years ago, and donated all the proceeds to the family. So the donation part was awesome, but I think the most important part for me was just the response I got from a lot of different types of people. Again, I make hip hop. That's not always something that people, moms and dads love. But when I made that song and I put my spin on it and was genuine about it, I think a lot of people responded in a good way, especially kids. A lot of kids really like the song, and a lot of kids have taken an interest in the song and see it as hip hop is like a positive thing and is something that you can give back with, and you can learn with. It's not just, kind of the bad things people worry about. So I was really proud of that. I think it connected. It gave me the opportunity to kind of take hip hop and transcend it into different areas: fundraising, community, teaching the children, teaching the youth. So that was probably so far. That's my biggest pride as far as what it's allowed me to do. I mean, I don't think when I started I ever imagined it would go in that direction. But looking back, I'm damn proud that it did. I've always said, like I said when I started, I don't want to be a gimmick. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to be something like that everybody else is. I think if there's one thing, and the greatest compliment I've gotten, and I've gotten it from everyone from just the kid down the block to Double XL Magazine, is he doesn't sound like anybody else. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the legacy I want to leave behind. I didn't want to sound like anybody else. I wanted to kind of do my thing. A lot of people say, man, when I get to know you, you're just like you are in your music. You talk about the same things, the same fire on certain topics, the brashness, the kind of things that embody a hip-hop musician, if you will. I think that's kind of the way I live my life. So I think my legacy would be, listen, man, there's going to be people that do better than me. There's going to be people that are more popular or whatever and explode, and that's fine. At the end of the day, you can't take away that I always rep where I'm from. I always try to explore both the good and the bad of where I'm from, and I always try to contribute to the culture in both the community as a whole and as the hip-hop community, and helping it grow and giving back. And, if it could all end tomorrow, and I think it's been a great run already. I mean, I don't think I expected it to get as far as it has. I'd love to keep pushing the envelope a bit, but I think when I'm all said and done, I hope people recognize that, I was real and I was honest, and I always put all of the effort I could into it.